The latest on the impeachment showdown. As the White House braces for a likely Senate trial, one of the most compelling witnesses yet closed out 2 weeks of marathon hearings. Fiona Hill, who is the top Russia expert in the White House, slammed the president's pressure campaign on Ukraine, saying she predicted this is going to blow up. Senior congressional correspondent Mary Bruce is tracking it all from Capitol Hill. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning, George. Well, Fiona Hill said it was her moral obligation to come before Congress, and in blunt testimony, she detailed how the president and his allies have undercut official foreign policy and warned that they are being driven by conspiracy theories pushed by the Russians. It was a dramatic end here to 3 days of high-stakes hearings. The week's final witness, Fiona Hill, a former Russia expert on the National Security Council, came to Congress with a stark warning for Republicans.
Some of you on this committee appear to believe that Russia and its security services did not conduct a campaign against our country, and that perhaps, somehow, for some reason, Ukraine did. This is a fictional narrative that has been perpetrated and propagated by the Russian security services themselves. I would ask that you please not promote politically driven falsehoods that so clearly advance Russian interests.
Hill said Trump's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, was selling conspiracy theories straight from Putin's playbook, and that Trump was buying it.
Is it your understanding then that President Trump disregarded the advice of his senior officials about this theory and instead listened to Rudy Giuliani's views?
That appears to be the case, yes.
Hill detailed two competing channels of foreign policy that were often directly at odds. Republicans pressing her on a tense moment she had with Trump's point man in Ukraine, the EU ambassador Gordon Sondland.
I was upset with him that he wasn't fully telling us about all of the meetings that he was having. And he said to me, but I'm briefing the president, I'm briefing Chief of Staff Mulvaney, I'm briefing Secretary Pompeo, and I've talked to Ambassador Bolton. He was being involved in a domestic political errand. And we were being involved in national security foreign policy, and those two things had just diverged.
Hill explained how that domestic political errand later turned into a quid pro quo. That Sondland explained to her the Ukrainians would only get a coveted meeting with the president if they announced the investigations Trump was demanding. Also testifying, David Holmes, an American diplomat in Ukraine. He says he overheard the president himself on a phone call with Sondland discussing the Ukrainian president.
I then heard President Trump ask, so he's going to do the investigation. Ambassador Sondland replied that he's going to do it. I have a clear recollection that these statements were made.
Republicans tried to attack Hill's credibility.
Dr. Hill, you have provided me probably the greatest piece of evidence that's before us to illustrate the problem with hearsay.
But Hill pushed back.
I've talked about things I heard with my own ears. We're here to relate to you what we heard, what we saw, and what we did. And to be of some help to all of you in really making a very momentous decision here.
After more than 30 hours of public hearings, the president's allies say the impeachment inquiry is nothing more than a sham.
I think the American people see through it. They see that the facts are on the president's side, and they know this process has been entirely unfair.
But Democrats say the evidence is clear. The president abused his power.
There is nothing more dangerous than an unethical president who believes they are above the law. We are better than that.
Now, while the hearings were wrapping up here over at the White House, they are trying to keep Republicans in line and strategize what comes next. The president yesterday met with key Republicans, including Senator Mitt Romney, who has been one of his fiercest critics, and later White House officials sat down with other Republicans trying to come up with a game plan to tackle what they believe is a near certain trial in the Senate.
So, Mary, let's look at what comes next. It appears that the Intelligence Committee is done. This is it for public hearings. They're not going to call anybody else, most likely. So this will go to the House Judiciary Committee. They'll draft up the articles of impeachment after they get a report from the Intelligence Committee. That goes to the House floor. They're still hoping by the end of the year to vote on impeachment. And then comes that Senate trial you were just talking about. So take us inside the talks between the White House and Republicans on how they're thinking about this, how they plan to go forward with the trial.
Well, George, there does seem to be a little bit of a dispute here. Republicans seem divided over the best strategy, particularly when it comes to the timing here. Some are advocating for a short trial, perhaps as short as just 2 weeks. The argument there is that trying to limit the time may also limit the political damage to the president, while others are pushing for a longer, more drawn-out process. That would give some of these key moderate Republicans a chance to show voters that they are taking this seriously. And, George, a longer process could put those Senate Democrats in a tricky position, those who are running running for president because it could come up against those first early contests.
Yeah, and the
George.
president is torn between wanting this over and wanting to have a full defense mounted by those senators. Okay, Mary, thanks very much. Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.